Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Paint Table. It's my weekly show where you see what I got done, what I'm working on, and what is coming up. So, I'm back! It's been a while from On the Paint Tables. I have been spending the summertime with my kids, focusing on enjoying the beautiful weather and just getting outside and not paying a huge amount of attention to GMG in the last month or so, or basically anything that isn't my kids. But we are rolling back to school. This is the last week of summertime, and they will be sort of gearing up for getting back to school, and that means I'm gearing up to having some free time to do more GMG stuff, change things up, and of course bring you guys a lot more videos of what's going on and of course what will be new in the future. So today we're taking a look at, I'm going to do a little bit of stuff for Kill Team just to kind of go. I never actually did a painting video for the Kill Team stuff. It was such a blur of I was trying to fit it in around traveling and just being at home that I basically just did the videos we did and then just was like, I'm out. I don't want to do anything else. So a lot of people have asked how I painted the scenery from the Kill Team Octavius box. I have a little overview of that today, along with the key product that made me able to do it in a day. The Kill Team that I painted from the box, which is the Deathcore Krieg, I'll do a quick overview of how I painted those. And then a new game I'm trying out this weekend, which I'm super pumped about, called Don't Look Back. I just painted the starter for this. This is from Blacksite Studios. It's a horror-themed game, and I painted up the unlucky teens and one adult who are lost in the woods having terrible misadventures, and the bag-headed killer from The Strangers who, well, the bag-headed killer, the smiley face killer, who's going to be the main sort of villain for my first few videos, the first 3 videos I play through. And then I got tons of things coming up: Infinity, Malifaux, 40K, Sludge, more stuff for Don't Look Back, and of course a surprise box set that I got in the mail that I'm super pumped about for you guys to check out. So, all right, let's see what I got done and what is coming up. So here's the painted pile from the last few weeks since my last On the Paint Table. Obviously there's quite a bit more for the 40K stuff, but I'm just gonna focus on the stuff people, you've seen in videos already, but people had questions about. So first things first, get out of the way. Kill Team Octarius, my paint scheme for my Deathcore Krieg, not Death Guard, and my scenery recipe for painting this great orky terrain. So I'll do the terrain first because it was the most asked about. Time saver indeed, this guy right here. This is Rust-Oleum Universal Metallic Paint and Primer in 1, anti-surface, flat antique nickel. Now there's a bunch of different shades of this. There's an iron one. I actually use this for my Imperial Knights. You can use it for Necrons, really anything that's going to be metallic. It's relatively cheap. It goes on great. And once it's dry, although it does take a long time to dry, it really does give the models kind of an indestructible primer that is metallic. And that was, after I assembled this, what I primed all of this terrain with. Now, I used an airbrush, but you could just as easily use a medium-sized dry brush, something with a head the size of, let's say, a pencil eraser. And I went in and then interior panel painted all of these colors. So with the airbrush, what it was, instead of painting the exteriors of stuff, I painted just the middle sections of all these panels with greens and reds and yellows, just a ton of primary orky colors, kind of at random. And that gives you that look of a metallic object where it used to be painted a solid color, but because it's been banged up against for a gajillion years, all of the paint has rubbed off the leading edges of everything, and you have this beat up, sort of decrepit metallic surface. It's a classic orc painting technique for vehicles and big metallic orc objects that saves you an absolute ton of time. The other trick like this is, if you want a bit grimier, you go in and you prime it all dark brown, give it a really heavy metallic dry brush that gives you all the rust around the edges, and then you do this same technique. That's a third one you could do. Once I did all my colors, I went through and I actually gave this a dark wash. So it is fairly bright, it's about like this when it's all done. So I made myself a wash with water, just thin down water, a touch of isopropyl alcohol, and black ink. I happen to have a huge store of old GW black ink, and I was also using a scale 75 black ink. I just made a big pot of it. When you're doing terrain, it's easier to use ink and washes. And then you can use, there's the old future floor wax technique. You can put a little drop in if you want. Any kind of honestly, any kind of gloss varnish will do it too. So if you buy a bulk gloss varnish, a couple drops of that, and then just messily put it all over. And that gave me all my sort of like nice, rich, dark recesses detail on these guys. And when I was finished, I dry brushed all of the model, like just literally everything with Necron Compound to pick out those edges, just like a nice bright silver with a huge scenery dry brush. And just the trick is, if you want to do terrain convincingly, always dry brush from the top down, as if the rain has like washed the grime and dirt to the lower levels of the building. So you dry brush down and away. And that's how I got sort of like the bright silvers on the edges of everything. When I was finished, I went in and after everything had dried nicely, I just used a brown in my airbrush from the bottom up to give it that grime layer at the bottom there. You can see, so just like shooting basically from the bottom of the model up. So silver parts this way, brown parts up that way, and you get this nice finish. I picked out a few details, just like the cords and the light bulbs and stuff afterwards, just to have it not just be pure dry brushing and stuff. And honestly, you don't need to do a lot of details to kind of convincingly finish the terrain, and that was it. I have this like bright kind of carnival-y orc clans terrain set from the new Kill Team box that was done. I mean, it took longer to build it than paint it, really, and most of it's drying times. I'd recommend if you want to get it done like in a day, spend like the evening before getting it built and then rattle can it all. So get it all spray painted and give it overnight to dry, and then you can have it painted. The rest of the work probably takes another hour or two to do it all at the same time. And I was super happy with the results, and obviously it looked great in videos. For the Krieg, it was kind of a similar process. I took these guys and airbrushed them with like a dark gray, great coat gray actually, from Imperial Hobbies. And then just did like a black primer, gray coat, sort of like Zenithal prime. I actually dry brushed them after that with a lighter gray. You can see that picked out the edges of like the cloak and stuff, just a really faint light dry brush. And then just did all my base coating. So this was all done, I think, with the paints from the Army Painter Mega Paint set. Actually, it might have actually been GW paints. No, it was GW paints. It's Rakarth Flush for the bags, Griffin Gold for the pads and the helmet and stuff like that. A little bit of, I think, Lead Belcher for all the metallics. Or maybe it's Runefang Steel. I think it's Lead Belcher, actually. And then I washed everything with Agrex Cloths and then picked up my highlights. Oh, and sorry, and Thunderhawk Blue for the legs and stuff like that. So the wraps and stuff for Karth Flush, dried bark for the boots and the leather straps, and then just everything was just given a wash, and I picked out details. So I picked out like little metals there and the ibis with some reds, and that was really it. Like, it's a nice basic paint scheme. I threw the decals on afterwards, so just used the Imperial Guard decal and then just a little company marking there, just to use them and try them out. The decals are nice. They're a little bit tiny, so be prepared to lose some. And then it was just like little things like the little details on the medic and the sergeant and stuff like that to finish them off. The bases were done with Sterling Battlemire, and then once that was dry brushed around the edges with two light grays. So I think it was Administratum gray, and then whatever like the new Space Wolf gray is, like the Fang or something like that. Hoth blue maybe, I don't know, like the light blue gray at the very edge, and it leaves the brown in the center there and gives them a nice kind of like shadow they're standing on. If you want to darken that a bit too, you could just thin down some Chaos Black, Abaddon Black, some Abaddon Black with water, and just do a little tiny circle of like super thin down, almost like water paint in the middle there to make their shadow pop. But it's a nice easy way of getting good results in the bases. And I think those are Highland Tufts from Army. Then we've got the characters box from Don't Look Back. So this is the starter set selection of figures. There's 6 sort of like hero characters and then a multi-part villain. I made the villain with an axe, the smiley face baghead, because The Stranger is one of my favorite all-time horror movies, and like a classic kind of like Michael Myers blue jumpsuit. He comes on a 30 mil base, and then 25 mil bases for all of the other characters. So you've got kind of like the high school mean girl. You get the park ranger, the only adult, who's kind of like, you idiot kids, you're lost here in the park. You've got the jock with his baseball bat and his like leather jacket, which is pretty cool. You've got the nerd with his flashlight and his like Hardy Boys kind of like look that he's got rocking there. You got the cool guy, or the brave like dude with his shotgun, and he's kind of like the reliable guy. And then you've got the cheerleader doing rah rah sis boom bah with the mega horn, and you know, I did the same letter colors obviously as the jock. I figured that was a nice. It's called the fictional town's called Northwoods that all these horror stories take place in, so Northwoods High. And yeah, I'm pumped. There's tons of expansions out already for these. I'm gonna paint the sort of like the most logical one first, which is the supporting characters. The other people like wander into the movie. And this is a solo cooperative game for 1 to 4 players from Black Site Studios. You'll see the Let's Play coming up soon. Also, pretty sure I never showed these guys off. I painted up Beast, Mystique, and Cyclops for my games of Marvel Crisis Protocol from a few weeks ago that I played with Kevin. And I don't actually remember if I showed them off. So these were done in pretty much the same color scheme as the previous ones, using the Army Painter Mega Paint set. And it's like a light blue. I used the sort of like a brown yellow. I think it's actually an elf flesh tone for the yellow there. Washed it with brown and then highlighted it back up through beige. Mystique's skin is actually done the same, I think, as Scott's clothing. So like in a light blue. But I used a light flesh tone blended into that to make her skin pop, and of course gave her the yellow eyes and the dark red hair. Her base was done slightly differently because she's like standing on the Xavier's Academy like crushed out pin there. And then Beast, I did the skin slightly differently, so I used more of like a blue-gray to highlight his skin up and give Hank kind of a different sort of look. And then he's like hanging off of like an old like end, like it's almost like a cell phone tower or something like that, chunk of metal. But same basis basic like processes and colors as the previous X-Men stuff. And let's start over here with stuff coming up. I can't remember if I showed off the airbrushing I did on my Sludge Army. So here it is, my Foot Knights, my Grenadiers, so my Shock Troops rather, my Regulars over here, in 5 bases of Regulars with Command, my Commander, and then over here my Jaegers, which are my other like line troops. So this is my, I think it's 25 or 35 points of Sludge. I might add a couple more models when this gets painted if I have time, like some Arcanists and some Wizards and stuff like that, take it up to the full like 35 points or whatever. No, 350 points. I keep rounding down, but I want to get this stuff painted. I got a game of Sludge coming up with Chase next weekend, and this needs to get done, but it's just details at this point. Like all the airbrushing's finished, so it's picking out details and we'll be ready to run. My supporting character pack, there's 6 in here, and they kind of expand the abilities of the supporting characters from some basic stuff. I painted, there's like an Officer Barbrady, who's awesome. There's a hiker, like a kind of a woodsman, and then there's a janitor, which I started off with. There's also a pizza delivery guy, an evil doctor, and like I think she's a reporter, which is kind of a femme fatale. Allows me, if I paint these 3 up, it means I won't be using the cardboard counters for them that come in the core game for playing through the Let's Play, and I just figured this was the first like add-on I'd want if I was playing with the core box, and it'll be perfect to show up in the game. For stuff coming up, I'm gonna crack this sucker open and get to work on it in the next week. I'm pumped to try out the new starter set for Legion. There is tons of cool new like vehicles and stuff coming up for this game, and this should give us a good selection in the studio of both Separatists and like the what are they called? Separatists and Republic to play through, and paint up some General Grievous will be awesome, as well as some Ben Kenobi. So I'm pumped to actually get the core of this painted, and then hopefully I'll be able to add in the new releases as they show up. But also for next week, we're going to be playing through some Operation Crimson Stone. I got some Infinity to film, and I'm going to be painting up the core box here, as well as the Dire Foes. And because it's the Perimeter core box, I've got Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf I get to paint up too, which I'm pumped about. Such a cool miniature. He's basically Old Man Logan. He's so cool with his big like stabby hand. And this is going to put the Cosmoflot against the Nomads. I got the Dragon Lady to paint up as well. This cool event model, which will be a new HVT model for me to play with their cool, awesome pig. And the thing I'm most pumped about, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on, is I got a sample product of the injected thermoplastic remote for the Nomads to paint up to go with this, and I'll be checking that out and giving you like a full like individual video on the plastic and the quality and stuff like that. I'm not going to show it off now, but there's a copy of it in here. I'll be able to give you my opinions on it when I've actually painted it. Then also got this is kind of a surprise, the Explorers Guild starter set. I hadn't seen these new starter sets for Malifaux, but they come with pre-assembled miniatures you put on a base. This is for my Explorer Guild, a Fate deck, some ski markers, and a widget. And it's everything you need to play. I'm actually really pumped about this. I'd like to try and find another one from another faction so I can give it a go and see how they do against each other. So these are like everything you need to play in a box, starter boxes, and the Explorer Society's got one, and they're all versatile. So no matter what master you play in the future, none of them are masters, you can play with these guys in basically any group. So I'm pumped about that. I think it's a really cool idea. Put versatile models in, give you everything you need to play, and it's kind of just like a core, like no matter what master you jump off into, this gives you the right stuff to get started. And now this is kind of a surprise, but this is the cool thing that showed up. Check it out! Oh my god, Matthew Brock had a copy of this. And after I did Space Fleet, there was such a like excitement about these old box games. He sent it along for me to check out, and this has everything in it. There's all of the, here they are, all of the 5 heroes, the Skaven, the human soldiers, the tiles, and the blocks. I'm going to paint all this up over the next couple of months and do a full playthrough also of Mighty Warriors. I am pumped for this. I have everything. I have Crunch, Mighty Warriors, and Space Crusade. The only one I don't have now is Ultramarines, to be able to check out the 4 original bookshelf games. A massive thank you to Matthew Brock for parting with this, and I am pumped to show it to you guys. This is such a cool collection of miniatures, and such a neat, different game system where you fight your way through this, like, castle basically, and all of its crazy rooms against the Skaven. It's basically the collection of miniatures from Advanced Hero Quest too. So what that means is once I've painted all this up, I'm ready to play Advanced Hero Quest. And last but not least, a massive thank you to Andrew Russ. He went to the Grand Tournament in Florida, I think, for 40K, where they had these cool collectible minis, and he grabbed me this Necron Lord. His name is Hasmotef the Resplendent, for my burgeoning new 9th edition Necron army, which I'll be adding to a whole bunch going forward, basically, and like basically changing over my old army to my new army. Cash has been playing with my old Necron warriors, and so this means I got one of the cool name characters. I'm pumped. He's a great model, and he'll be a ton of fun to add to my collection. So big thanks to Andrew. So there you go, another week's, well, just more another week's painting, but another on the paint table, done it on the books. You can see how the projects have piled up while I've basically been spending time outside during the summer, and enjoying the great outdoors, enjoying my kids. But we will crack on. I'll have all kinds of free time, hopefully, as school kicks in September, to start working on all these things and bringing tons of great new games. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more on the paint table next week. See what I got done. Until then, I'm Ash. Have a good night. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.